Who would have ever thought that one tiny green Furby puppet would hold the future of Star Wars in his minuscule little hands? That's the crazy story one not-so-crazy source says is true. So I have received a huge rumor, and it's coming from a source that I have trusted majorly in the past regarding Lucasfilm, regarding the path forward for Star Wars, and I have to say this is it's a humdinger of a rumor, but it's a rumor, and so take the appropriate salt with it. Recognize that I have not received any kind of official documents, any sorts of pieces of information directly from Lucasfilm or Star Wars. None of that's on my table. But also keep in mind that I did get this most recent thing about Rey being in a movie correct. And, everybody was assuming, oh, Daisy Ridley's come to Lucasfilm because she's going to make a cameo somewhere. And I was like, no. Here's what's really happening. Daisy Ridley is going to be in a movie. They're going to do a movie in the sequel trilogy era. And, funny enough, days and weeks after I come out with that video right here on the channel, we had Echo Base Network here with us. We had Lauren Connor with us. After that video comes out, then these other outlets and YouTubers start saying, oh, I'm hearing that Daisy Ridley is coming back to reprise Rey, and it is going to be a big deal. It's like, I bet you heard that. Yeah, I bet you are hearing that. And so there is some kind of track record, but what we're going to talk about today is how this still is connected with Grogu, because that has been an area of contention. A lot of people saying, that Baby Yoda / Grogu is not involved in future plans. We even had the press taking Jon Favreau's statements about this and twisting it into something that he did not say. And always watch that whenever you see the media start to twist something. So we're going to get into this, and I want to say too that the reason that I put some interest into this rumor, besides the fact that it's coming from a source that I've trusted in the past, is that there is a degree of specificity here that indicates to me that there are some things known. Who knows, right? Let's have fun with it. If you enjoy content like this, click like, share, subscribe, and you know what? That notification bell, those algorithms, you can stick it to them when you click it, that notification bell. Let's dive in. This is going to be fun. Here we go. So what I am told is that, yes, Lucasfilm wants to have Baby Yoda, Grogu, with the character Rey in a movie. And it's for a very clear reason. The very clear reason is that if they put out Rey into a movie, and this is the Lindelof movie potentially, but if they put Rey out in a movie and that movie bombs, then you know who is to blame? Well, beyond the people who work at Lucasfilm. But Rey would be the character that would no longer be shielded. So, if you look at the sequel trilogy, you can come up with excuses for that. One of the excuses that Lucasfilm has said is that they were too in tune with fan service in The Rise of Skywalker / Palpatine. And so that's their excuse for why that movie did so poorly. They don't really have an excuse for why The Last Jedi performed so much lower than The Force Awakens, although they'll claim it's right in line with The Empire Strikes Back and all that. It's a bunch of bunk. But anyway, if Rey comes out, though, in her own movie and it fails miserably at the box office, then that character is damaged. And if that character is damaged, so is Kathleen Kennedy's legacy. So are all of the things associated with Rey. And so Lucasfilm has sort of a selfish reason, a vested interest in having Grogu, Baby Yoda, appear with her. Not only does that bring in Star Wars' strongest merchandising option to match up with her, and thus potentially bring in families just to see Baby Yoda on the big screen. Although this would be a little bit older Grogu, not infantile, but still very, very young. But the other reason is that if the movie were to fail, they could blame something else. They could say, well, Grogu is phenomenally popular. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, Rey is too. This was something else. If Rey is the main titular character, then it exposes Lucasfilm and the sequel trilogy at large to a much higher degree than otherwise. And so they are keen on having Grogu, Baby Yoda, in the movie. Now here's where it gets all very, very interesting, because it seems to me that Baby Yoda is in the middle of a giant tug of war right now. And that tug of war has to do with the control of Star Wars, the control of Lucasfilm, the path going forward. And so I'm just going to run down some things that I have been told are part of all of this, what would you say, progression of trying to figure out what will happen with Grogu Baby Yoda, what will happen with the sequel trilogy, what will happen with Star Wars at large. Here's what I'm told. Disney leadership, that is to say, the Iger administration, right? The C-suite over at Disney, they want Golem Creations, LLC, involved in the Lindelof Star Wars movie and probably more. Now, why would they want Golem Creations, LLC involved, and what the heck is Golem Creations? Well, Golem Creations is the production company that was started by Jon Favreau. It was under a different name previously, but it's Golem Creations now, and it is the company that creates The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett and some other stuff. And Lucasfilm contracts with them, and that's how they contract with Jon Favreau to create this New Republic era Disney Plus, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni universe that they've been working on. Those things, okay, so the Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, those are not Lucasfilm proper. Those are created specifically by Jon Favreau's company. All right? Now, why is that important? Why does Disney want that company and thus Jon Favreau involved? Well, here's the thing. I am told by this source that Favreau is pretty hesitant about Grogu appearing with Rey. Okay? And the reason that he may be very hesitant to have Grogu appear with Rey is that having Grogu in that movie without his influence could alter the future story of Grogu without his approval. And so, it could be worse than that. It could be that the character appears and is not portrayed in the way that either he or Dave Filoni would like for that to occur, right? Because it's going to be under a different director, different writer. And so you say, well, who cares? Star Wars can do whatever they want. Lucasfilm can do whatever they want with their characters. Kathleen Kennedy's the boss, right? Well, here's where it gets very interesting. So, if Jon Favreau doesn't want Baby Yoda, Grogu, The Mandalorian, or some of these other characters from his series to appear, it may be that he can actually stop it. Okay? Now again, we're in rumor and speculation territory here, but here's what I'm told. Apparently, after the first season of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau had completed his contract with Disney Plus. It was just a one-season deal. But Disney Plus recognized that The Mandalorian was absolutely on fire, and Jon Favreau's vision for Star Wars was something that they had to have. It had created a new excitement around the franchise that had appeared to be killed off by the sequel trilogy. The upper brass recognized this, even if Kathleen Kennedy and the top people at Lucasfilm did not. And if you're ever watching interviews or you're seeing photo shoots that have Jon Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy in it, you may feel the tension there. And the tension is likely because Favreau was brought in and given, well, let's hold up on that. I won't tell that just yet. But Favreau was brought in and given a deal. And the deal didn't necessarily go through Kathleen Kennedy. And it didn't go through her because what he had done was so phenomenal that everybody recognized, everybody with power at the table recognized that his vision for Star Wars was superior to any vision that she had. All right, now let's talk about the deal that Favreau got. The interesting thing is that, so Disney looking at Disney Plus and realizing that all their eggs were in this basket, right? The streaming wars were on, and Disney needed to capture as many subscribers as they possibly could. They're shifting that strategy now, but that was the idea originally. Disney, recognizing how powerful The Mandalorian was and what a huge opportunity they had, they went to Jon Favreau and to Golem Creations, and I am told they gave him the carte blanche, whatever you want, we'll do it kind of offer, right? We have to have you. And so the exact wording in the message I received is that the contract for Golem Creations was tremendously favorable to Favreau. It was signed, I'm told, in 2020, and it not only gave Jon Favreau an immense amount of money, but it also did something else that's significant here in all of this tug of war. I'm told that it may have provided Jon Favreau with certain amounts of creative control over the characters that he had created and was using in his series, so long as those series are active. And so that would include The Mandalorian, that would include Baby Yoda. So it's not a given that if Lucasfilm wants to pull the trigger and put Baby Yoda with Rey, that they can do so unless they receive permission from Jon Favreau. One exception to how good this contract is that I'm told that Favreau did not get the George Lucas merchandising style deal, which would have been just insanely positive for him, especially now that we see how well those little Baby Yoda toys have sold. But I don't think that he receives any kind of royalties off those. But in terms of money up front, in terms of money for creating episodes and potentially even movies, he is owed a ton of money. Now, by the way, what that means is that if negotiations came through where he is put in charge or is a consultant with real power over these Star Wars movies, then what would happen is almost certainly those budgets are way bigger because he's going to come in and be able to command a lot of cash. Now, here's a cool caveat about all this, or I don't guess a caveat, maybe an anecdote. If you've wondered why Gina Carano's role as Cara Dune has not been recast, that may have something to do with it. Lucasfilm may have wanted to recast that, but it seems that characters created in the first season of The Mandalorian, they may have a bit of creative control levers in the possession of Jon Favreau where he gets to say what happens with those characters. I don't know the full details of that. I've not been shown any kind of contracts or the legal language that's used there, but I think that Jon Favreau has some degree of control. Now, here's where this is all going. I am told that there's one side of this equation that wants to push this 2025 movie to 2026. That's important, and we'll come back to it in a moment. But I'm also told that there is no Star Wars celebration in 2024 because there is uncertainty about the studio's leadership and direction. And so I think that's why Favreau wants to push this off. There are, I am told, negotiations for Golem Creations to come and be a part of this next movie, and then potentially more movies after that. But one of the issues is that those negotiations, allegedly, are expected to go on until this year's Star Wars celebration, and possibly beyond those, and that may have an impact on what is announced. You may recall that one of the big scoops I had not too long ago was that I revealed that Hugh Jackman was coming back to reprise his role as Wolverine, although that meant that he was coming to the MCU for the very first time. Now, when I announced that, we were heading into D23, and people got really concerned about, well, why did they not announce that? You must be wrong. Well, it turned out that Hugh Jackman was in contractual negotiations, and so once those were completed, after D23, we got the big announcement. You know, they came out, and it was phenomenal, right? People just, they ate it up. They were watching those that reveal over and over and over. And so that may be the case here as well. We may not get an announcement of Rey and Grogu. We may get something very nebulous about what's coming. because these negotiations may take us past Star Wars Celebration. And another thing to note here is there may be some disagreement, some difference of opinion on the direction for Lucasfilm and the direction for Star Wars. We know that there are quite a few rumors about Kathleen Kennedy and when she will exit the studio. She is in her 70s, and she may leave at the end of this year, which has been the going consensus. But now that Iger's back, things may have shifted. But she may leave later this year after Indiana Jones has wrapped up its box office run, or she may stick around till 2024. But whatever the case may be, you can see that she would have some interest, especially if the rumors about her trying to get executive producer status guaranteed to her in some sort of legacy role. If those are true, you can see why she would want to push for a movie coming out in 2025. She doesn't want to have these movies hang out there for very long. She wants to be able to push them through quickly and have her impact on them. However, if you're a Jon Favreau, and we don't know this, but let's say that he's aiming for the next head of Lucasfilm. Again, we don't know that. But if that's what he's wanting, or if he has an idea of who he would like to have in that position, then having this film be pushed off a little bit, well, that would be a great idea in terms of allowing him greater creative control over it. You can think that if Kathleen Kennedy leaves, Jon Favreau is the top dog when it comes to Star Wars. All right. But here's the thing that makes all of this extremely interesting to me. And that is that Jon Favreau, when he's a part of any production to do with Lucasfilm and Star Wars, I am told that that's when this extremely lucrative contract kicks in. And he gets major payouts, major payouts to him and to his studio. Well, if he pushes that movie off until 2026, let's say, that gives him more runway. That gives him more runway to continue doing The Mandalorian, which we've found out now. Season 4 is already written. Gives him more runway with Ahsoka. Anything else he wants to do, and he's the only game in town, really. I mean, look at the ratings for Andor. Look at the ratings for this other stuff. So he's guaranteed huge paychecks if he's the guy, if he's the man. And there doesn't seem to be much benefit to him at all. In fact, it's the opposite if there's a very successful Star Wars movie that comes out and then competes with his characters. Now, do I know that that's why he would want to slow this down? I don't know. It could also be that he wants to slow it down so that Kathleen Kennedy will step aside and either he or somebody he is favorable to will take over. We don't know. But whatever the case may be, there was such specificity given to me about sort of the details of how all this is working. I felt like it was just necessary to bring it to you. I love this kind of stuff. I know that this is rumor and speculation. Again, though, it comes from a source that I have found to be extremely accurate. And just look at the track record, right? Look at the reveal of Rey. Took a big chance on that. And within about 2 weeks, everybody out there is saying, oh, Rey's coming back, Rey's coming back. Well, this is the story as best I know it about what's going on with negotiations in regards to Grogu and The Mandalorian, the possibility of those kinds of characters coming to the big screen. And if you actually look at what Jon Favreau said when he was interviewed about this, and possibly he wasn't ready for that kind of a question. You know, that was sort of the kind of question that means the cat's out of the bag, and he's not into that. But he said that it would be a while before those characters came on the big screen, but that was definitely a possibility. And he also mentioned that he had plenty to do with the TV shows. And I think that was a major indicator that really says to me that this source is onto it. I'm not sure that they can put those characters onto the big screen without his full approval and without him being there. And that's a tremendous place for him to be, both financially and as a creative lead at everything Star Wars, whether or not he's officially on the books with Lucasfilm or whether those contracts go to his studio production company, Golem Creations. But that's what I've got. Rey is on the way, and it seems that there's a fast pace taking place behind the scenes to find out what other characters might appear with Rey. And protect her from potentially being a huge bust that would be a lot of egg on the face of everybody at Lucasfilm. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun to report on something like this and explain sort of the financial things that are taking place, the contractual things that are taking place behind the scenes. If you like this kind of thing, click like, share, subscribe, and stick it to those algorithms. Click it, the notification bell. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.